Sakali saman Korote kati Nihonata jata jata Tabito gaibo Hare Nama Sukhe Aparada Habe Hata Bhabe no kripa Labhi jana Vikarta he vinata Shakti bhuti Aviyati Guru Mure Atmasata Yogyaka vichare Kichu nahi khan Tomara koruna saro Korunara oile kandiya kandiya prananara kibo aro Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya Guru Dasa Tina Bekaya Tina Gurudev Pahundvi Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Pahundvi Jana Sarvavatar Sarashinamani Kevalananda Bajo Bajo Vai Chaitanya Nitai Sudrida Vishvasa Kori Vishaya Chadya Shirasi Madhya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Yakore Pai Tribhuvane Nai Evona Joya Ladhasa পশু পাখি জুড়ে পাষাণা বেদরে শুনি যার শুনা গাথা সংসারে মজিয়া রহিলি করিয়া সে পরে নাহিল আশা আঙ্কনা খলমা মঞ্জাই সমনা কয়ে লোচন দাসা Parama Koruna Ahandi Jana Nitai Gaurachanda Nitai Gaurachanda Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Manmanasa Madhukara Marpaya Nijapada Pankaja Bhaktarande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Yadapi Samadhishu Bhikirapi Pashyati Natavanaka Brahmarichi Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Idam Nichami Nisham Yatavachita Tadapi Sipadhita Vichin Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Bhaktir Sudam Satyayapi Madhava Natvai Mama Tila Matri Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Karuneksvarakakara Pitavadhika Durgata Katana Vitatri Krishna Deva Bhavantam Yadya Sanatana Kalita Jita Rasa Bharam Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Nivasakti Vandriha Vritanindati Dindam Madhuri Masaram Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Translation. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you. Please fix my bee-like mind in the nectar of your lotus feet. O Achyuta, although the great Lord Brahma, in his trance of samadhi, is unable to see even a particle of the effulgence emanating from the tips of the nails of your lotus feet, still I desire this vision, for I have heard of the wonderful waves of your mercy. O Madhava, although my devotion for you does not come forth even a tiny bit, because you are the Supreme Lord above all, you are the accomplisher of the impossible. O Sanatana, your lotus feet surpass even the nectar of the gods. Finding in this lotus flower of your feet the essence of sweetness, which is endowed with truly wonderful mellows, I pray that today the bee of my mind may eternally reside there. Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. And now we'll do the Sri Guru Puja. And remember, not everybody gets to do this every morning. Most people have to get up and watch TV. We start with a few relevant prayers. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtar Payeche Keba. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtar Payeche Keba. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtar Payeche Keba. Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Sarupam Shri Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivanamaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi He Guru Jnana Dadina Bandho Swananda Data Kodanaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahita Avatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara He Dina Bandho Kodanaika Sindho Utraprasadam Mai Mandamude Laksha Parade Bahupapagade Tatpada Padme Stumatishta Krishne Yadyapi Amar Guru Chaitanya Radas Tatapi Janiye Ami Tahara Prakash Guru Krishna Rupahaya Shastrara Pramane Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karena Bhakta Gane Shiksha Guru Keta Jani Krishnera Swarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shrestha E Duri Rupa Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayastavesha Ramayushapi Kridim Ridam Mudasmaranta Yontar Bahis Tanubratam Ashubhan Vadunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Vyanakti. Without serving the representative of Krishna, nobody can approach Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, and the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Sri Chaitanya, I know him also as a plenary manifestation of the Lord. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore, the spiritual master cannot be other than a servant of Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service mood. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. The relationship of a disciple with his spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Spiritual masters always represent themselves the humblest servitors of the personality of Godhead, but the disciple must look upon the as the manifested representation of Godhead. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the Supersoul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Srila Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govindadev Vigraha. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy. the friend of the poor, and the Lord and Master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three. Shri Guru Charana Padmati Vallabha Jahati Sadha. Mando Mui Savadana Krishna Prapti Hoy Chaha Hoy De Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chiteke Ko Iya Hare Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Gadadhar Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Try to get it. Watch me. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Govinda Ram, Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath, Madan Mohan. Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupi Sanatan Bhadra Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopal Bhakta Das Raghunath. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Manda. Jaha Hote Vignanash Abhishta Puran. H.I. Gosai Jan Rajas Parlavas Samuithadas. Sankabara Pararenu Mora Pantagram. Tandera Charana Seve Bhakta Sanivad. Janame Janame Hoye Abilan. H.I. Gosai Jabe Bhajya Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash. Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash. Get ready. Bolo Anande Bolo Hare Bhakta Vrindavan. Bolo Anande Bolo Hare Bhakta Vrindavan. Mojamiyaman. Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Kori Ash. Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Naro Tamudas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Katha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. More Katha. Go Premadande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Gita Gaur Hari Bol. I go to pray, Manande. Hari Nam Sankirtan ki, Hari Nam Amantra ki, Hari Nam Prabhu ki, go pray, Manande. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. After trust of the Shishimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Kota Vaisesika ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Pastimes Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Saraswati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopiya Samakun Radha Kungiri Govardhan ki Jai. Shri Vrindavanam ki Jai. Shri Maya Poinagam ki Jai. Gang Maya ki Jai. Maya ki Jai, Tulsi Devi ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai, Vaisesika ki Jai. All glory is some devotees, all glory is some devotees, all glory is some devotees. All glory is to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Vardhari Jashodana Rama Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena, in today's verses 31. Tvanmaya yadha jane isha kandito yad anyad ashashta ritatmano buddha Yata charid balahitam pita swayam Tatatvam evar hasina samihitum Tvanmaya yada jana isha kandito Yadan yad ashashta ritatmano buddha Yata charid balahitam pita swayam Tatatvam evarhasi na samihitum Tvanmaya yada jana isha kandito Shashta Ratatmano Buddha
Yatacharet Parahitam Pitasvayam
Yatacharet Parahitam Pitasvayam
Hatam Evarhasi Na Samihitam
Tatam Evarhasi Na Samihitum
Tanmaya yadha janaisha khandito
Tanmaya yadha janaisha khandito
Yad anyat asastra ritat mano buddha
Yad anyat shastra ritat mano buddha
Yatha charit balahitam pita swayam
Yatacharet balahitam pita swayam
Tathatvam evarasi na samihitam
Tatatvam evarhasi na Tvanmaya yada jana isha kandito Yadanyada shasaratatmano buddha Yatacharet balahitam pita swayam Tatatvam evarhasi
Tvanmaya yadha janaisha khandito
Tvanmaya yada jana isha kandito
Yadanyada shastra ritatmano buddha
Yadanyada shasaratatmano buddha
Yatha charit balahitam pita swayam
Yatacharet balahitam pita swayam
Tatha tvamevarhasi na samihitum
Tatatvam evarhasina shamihitum
Tvanmaya yadha jana isha khandito
Tvanmaya yada isha kandito
Yadanyad ashastaritatmano buddha
Yadanyada shasaratatmano buddha
Yathacharet balahitam pita swayam
Yatacharet balahitam pita swayam
Tatha tvam evarhasi na samihitum
Tatatvam evarhasina samihitum Tvanmaya yada jana isha kandito Yadanyada shashtaratmano Buddha.
यथा चरेत बालहितं पिता स्वयं
Yata chared balahitam pita swayam.
तथा त्वम् एवारसि नः समीहितम्.
Tata tvamevarhasina samihitam. Word for word. Your mayaya, by illusory energy. Adha, certainly. Jana, the people in general. Isha, O my Lord. Kanditaha, separated. Yat, because. Anyat, other. Ashaste, they desire. Rita, real. Atmanaha, from the self. Abuddha, without proper understanding. Yata, as charid, would engage in. Balahitam, the welfare of one's child. Pita, the father. Swayam, personally. Tata, similarly. Tvam, your lordship. Eva, certainly. Arhasi na samihitum. Please act on my behalf. Translation, my Lord, due to your illusory energy, by the way, it's Pritumara speaking. My Lord, due to your illusory energy, all living beings in this material world have forgotten their real constitutional position. And out of ignorance, they are always desirous of material happiness in the form of society, friendship, and love. Therefore, please do not ask me to take some material benefits from you, but as a father, not waiting for the son's demand, does everything for the benefit of the son, please bestow upon me whatever you think best for me. Srila Prabhupada's purport, it is the duty of the son to depend upon his father without asking anything from him. The good son has faith that the father knows best how to benefit him. Similarly, a pure devotee does not ask anything from the Lord for material benefit, nor does he ask anything for spiritual benefit. The pure devotee is fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord takes charge of him, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 1866, Ahang tvam sarva papebhyo mukshayishami. The Father knows the necessities of the Son and supplies them, and the Supreme Lord knows the necessities of the living entities and supplies them sumptuously. Therefore, the Ishopanishad states that everything in this material world is complete, purnamidam. The difficulty is that due to forgetfulness, the living entities create unnecessary demands and entangle themselves in material activities. The result is that there is no end to material activities, life after life. Before us, there are varieties of living entities, and everyone is entangled in transmigrations and activities. Our duty is simply to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and let Him take charge, for He knows what is good for us. Prithu Maharaj therefore tells the Lord that, as the Supreme Father, He may elect to bestow whatever He considers beneficial for Prithu Maharaj. That is the perfect position of the living entity. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us in the Shikshashtaka, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam ba jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmani shvare bhavatad bhaktir haituki twai. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor have any desire to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service in my life, birth after birth. The conclusion is that the pure devotee should not aspire after any material benefit from devotional service, nor should he be enamored by fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. He should always be engaged favorably in the service of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Vilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivishakanvitamscha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindho, Dinabandho Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye, Vansha Kalpatadubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Bhavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My Lord, due to your illusory energy, all living beings in this material world have forgotten their real constitutional position, and out of ignorance they are always desirous of material happiness in the form of society, friendship, and love. Therefore, please do not ask me to take some material benefits from you, but as a father not waiting for the son's demand does everything for the benefit of the son, please bestow upon me whatever you think best for me. And Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport how the Lord is attentive to the devotees. In fact, He's attentive to every living being. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridaya sharajuna tistati brahmayan sarva bhutani antara rudrani mayaya. So much so that He has an intimate connection with every living being. It's not that the living beings in the material world are without shelter. It's just they've taken durashaya, bad shelter, out of a wrong-headed mentality of the material energy. Nonetheless, Krishna's there as the witness and the overseer and the permitter. Samaham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stina priya. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. He remains neutral in order that anyone can express his or her desire, I should say the modern thing, their desire to serve in any way or to try to serve the senses, which gives one an opportunity, which opens the door to the material world. But Krishna's there, and as soon as one gives one's attention to Krishna, even the smallest gesture, Krishna accepts as a opening to give the living being the intelligence to come to Him. Very importantly, in the Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. If someone has a sense of appreciation for Krishna and does something out of love or appreciation for Him, then He's immediately there to give the direction how to come to Him and how to do more devotional service. And in the beginning, as is mentioned here by Prithu Maharaj, he's noting that people don't know what to ask for. They ask the Lord for those items that might be detrimental to them. Just wondering if there's enough air in here. You should get a meter that reads how much air. It's one of the most important aspects of a place to hear and chant is air. That's why Naimisharanya forest. And also in Chennai, they have those huge vents coming off the ocean into the temple. No one ever wants to leave that place because of the air. So Krishna is also helpful to such people who approach him, but they want something. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jignasa artarti jnani cha bharatarshava. 4 kinds of what Krishna calls sukritina. Those who are pious, they're good-hearted. They ask things from Krishna. Some ask for wealth. Some ask for alleviation of suffering. Some are inquisitive, and some are in knowledge of the absolute truth. They're the best, because they know that they're part and parcel of Krishna, and the main goal of life is to do devotional service. Be that as it may, one may know Krishna and may not be able to perform pure devotional service because there may be lingering impressions from the material world which are seemingly detrimental. Therefore, in the 5th canto, Krishna says something very encouraging. Satyam dishati artito nirnam naivartato yad punar artito yata swayam vidite bhajatam nichatam ichabitanam nijapada palavam. That if somebody starts to understand that I should worship Krishna, but then they're asking for material benedictions again and again, Krishna says, this person may be a fool, but I'm not a fool. So I will give them the benedictions they're asking for, but I'll do it in such a way that they won't ask for them again. What's more, they'll want only me. I'll give them instead service to me. And then they'll be fully satisfied because he knows what's good for us. That's what a father may do for a child who doesn't know yet what to ask for. May ask for silly things, and the father may accommodate, but in such a way that the child can gradually become mature and ask for something that's worthwhile. In fact, this is the sense of which when Vamadev comes to Bali Maharaj and says, just give me 3 paces of land. Bali's feeling very fatherly and says, oh, my little Brahmin, please, look at me. You don't have anything, little begging bowl. I could give you anything. Just ask for whatever you want. You can have the whole universe. And he said, oh, no, just 3 little paces of land. And there it's mentioned if one comes to someone with means and then asks for something insignificant, then that person is cheating himself. And in the story of Sudama, when Krishna tries to reciprocate what Sudama brought, it was just a palmful of rice, and Krishna took a handful of it. Rukmini stopped him and said, no, don't take more. There are various interpretations why she said that, but one of them is she felt, I'm so obligated already, I wouldn't be able to give enough back. And similarly, Krishna felt that way after Sudama left, and he thought, Krishna didn't give me anything because he's so kind, and he knows I would misuse it. And therefore, knowing my heart and how fallen I am, he didn't offer me any material benediction. But when he got home, he found that he gave him more opulence than Indraloka. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains Krishna was feeling deficient, that he didn't have enough to offer back to Sudama because of that simple, loving offering that he brought for him, and under duress, because his wife asked him to go. She wanted to serve her husband with enough so that he wasn't skinny, and he went and asked for a little loan of some rice, and then he wasn't going to give it because he thought it was too insignificant for Krishna. But then after Krishna snatched it from him and took it, because, I mean, we can think of, too, even if we're not able to fully enact the offering, if the intention was there, Krishna accepts that you intended to give this to me, and he took it from him. Sudama was thinking, no matter how many times Krishna asks, I'm not going to give it to him. Because he was embarrassed. He thought it wasn't enough. And then Krishna snatched it from him. It was in Sudama's cloth, and Krishna knew where it was, so he took it away. And then he ate it. And then, when Krishna reciprocated with wealth, he was thinking, what a paltry offering I'm giving back to. I can't give enough to Sudama. That's why Sudama became completely purified. It's by noticing Krishna's feeling that he wasn't able to give enough back to him. It moved his heart so deeply that he gave up his last attachment to the material world, which was renunciation. And there it is mentioned that just as clouds feel grateful, so grateful that the farmers offer some kind of worship to them so that the rain may come. They're so grateful for the worship of the farmers that they rain only at night, because they think this rain is not good enough to repay the offerings given by these farmers. So they'll do it in a hidden way. This is the circle of gratitude that the devotee feels for Krishna and Krishna feels for the devotee. In a general way, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Jagnar tat karmanonyatra loko yam karma bandhana tarartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. And that is that the universe is set up for giving. One may not know precisely who God is, but if you start the process of giving, then you'll start to develop the understanding that there's a reciprocation built into the universe. If you give in sacrifice, then you'll live abundantly. What's more, you'll be liberated at the end of this lifetime. But then there's the mood of devotional service, in which the devotee doesn't want to have a trace of a thought within his or her mind that I want something back from the Lord. And this creates a competition between Krishna and the devotee, because Krishna wants to give everything to the devotee, but the devotee wants to give everything to Krishna and not accept anything from Krishna. And Prabhupada had this mantra, we're told, that everything for Krishna, nothing for me. Counterintuitively, this is the most fulfilling of impulses one can have within one's mind and heart. Everything for Krishna, nothing for me. And someone might think, well, what kind of life is that? No color TV? Or color TV. That used to be a thing. Or how will I be satisfied? Naivatmana prabharayam nijalabhapurno manam janana vidusa karuna vranite yajnano bhagavati labhyukamam vididitamanam tachchatmane pratimukasya yatamukashri. The devotee comes to this crucial understanding that I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And he's the soul of my soul. And when I give to Krishna, then I'm satisfied. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says it's just like if you look in the mirror, you decorate your face, it's already decorated in the reflection. So the more we give to Krishna, the more satisfied we feel. And when devotees or any living entity comes to this understanding by association of devotees, they become eager to give more to Krishna. And this is the progressive path of devotional service. How can I give myself more to Krishna? How can I do more service to Krishna? And as one gives more service to Krishna, ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya, the verse I quoted earlier, samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshosti napriya. Krishna is equal to all. And whatever you request according to your karma and your desire, I will fulfill through the material nature. He's equal to all living beings in that way. But he says, ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. When you become aware of the fact that I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhoktaram Yakatapasam, and that by giving to me, that you're actually giving to yourself. Just like feeding the stomach, you feed the hands, feet, eyes, everything, as we're parts and parcel of Krishna in a similar way. And that Krishna is Suridam, he's my best well-wisher. In the spirit of this verse, Krishna is the well-wisher. You know what's good for me, I have no idea. So you do what's best. And if one comes to this position, then ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, and the devotee starts the process of worshiping Krishna. And that part of that worship is this mood, that Krishna, I'm your servitor, and that's it. Like Prahlad Maharaj said at the end of his prayers to Nrsingadev, when Nrsingadev said, take a benediction. And he said, no, thank you. I'm not a merchant. I don't want anything back. I only worshiped you because you're God and I'm your servitor eternal. That's just the way it is. I'm not a vanik. No tit for tat. I did this. Remember what I did for you? No, I just serve. And Lord Nrsingadev insisted. He said, no, I'm Bhagavan. I give, you take. He said, all right, then please liberate my father. That's already done. 21 generations. He said, if there's anything, I want that within the core of my heart there be no material desire. Only desire for service to you. Imagine that this is the pinnacle of life. And even if one's here in the material world, and one prays for this sincerely, then Krishna will give clear understanding of what this means. It means that the relationship with Krishna is reawakened. That I understand that he is my eternal well-wisher, and that my only interest in life is giving to Krishna without any expectation in return. And the devotee feels so satisfied from such a prayer and an endeavor in life that he or she wants for nothing. And in the process, one refines one's devotional service by becoming specific in how to approach Krishna. This is why there are these Guru Paramparas. We have the Shri Guru Sampradaya. Now, in the beginning, one may have this understanding and impetus to serve Krishna. But how does one serve? There are various mentalities that someone may have according to how they have associated themselves with various people. This is what Krishna says is the reason for our placement in any particular body or mind. Karanam gunasangasya sarasad yoni janmasu is because of association. And this becomes more and more important in one's endeavor to refine one's devotional service to Krishna, one's mood of giving to Krishna. What's more, when we're giving to Krishna, it is that one's devotional service becomes more refined when one understands who Krishna is. Krishna says in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita also that there are some kinds of people who have an understanding that there is a God and I should worship him. But they have a misconception about who God is. He says that some people worship themselves as God. Some people worship the aggregate of demigods as God, and some people see the universe as God. That's a very amorphous understanding, the last one especially. Well, all of them are misguided, although there's a verisimilitude of truth. Somebody says, is that true? And you say, well, it's 2% true. It seems like it's true, but there's only a small element there. So one has to become more acquainted with the absolute truth, and that requires hearing from the Guru Parampara, very specifically that well, yes, God is the universe, and in some sense, you are God. In some sense, the demigods are God. And in fact, if you go into the Vedas, which are accommodating many different kinds of people, you may find statements that say, see, aha, the Upanishads say that I'm Brahman, God's Brahman, therefore I am God. But how can you offer with a sincere heart to the Supreme Personality of Godhead if you think you're God? And that's what confounded me when I first started reading literature, which was not from the Guru Parampara. Because there were prayers, definitely there were prayers to God, and they seemed sincere in a way, but then they were confusing because in the next paragraph, the prayers, the author would describe how these prayers were meant for God, but you're God. You just forgot. So I thought, this is rather an awkward situation. I'm offering prayers to me? It didn't seem heartfelt. How could I lean into such a prayer the way Priti Maharaj is leaning in and say, please, all I want to do is what you want me to do. And if I thought, well, I'm God, I should know what I want to do. And how am I praying to myself? This is not a very refined understanding of the Supreme Personality, or who is the Supreme. So when we come to Bhagavad Gita as it is, these misconceptions are dispelled. And one can understand that there is a personality behind everything. Ramano hi pratishtaham amritasya vyasya cha shashvatasya chatarmasya sukasya kandikasya cha. Krishna says, you may be the worshiper of the unlimited light that pervades everywhere. That is the Brahman, and that's what many people consider God. But he said, I'm behind that. That's just my effulgence. It's the rays emanating from my body. And one misses everything if one doesn't come to the understanding that the Srimad Bhagavatam gives. Vedanti tat vavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. That there's one, Advaya Gyan Tattva, that's true. There's only one thing. Everything's God. But there's different features. And the ultimate feature is Bhagavan, Krishna. God doesn't have the imperfection of impersonality in the sense that he has also the opulence of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, that's the source of all opulences because they emanate from him. Now, if one misses that part, then there's no tangible relationship. So in understanding the spiritual science, as we come closer to the Sri Guru Parampara, we become more refined, as I said, and we also have to refine our focus and become more focused on Bhagavan. But then who is that Bhagavan? Of course, when we come to the Sampradaya, then we have accepted that there is a way in which Krishna will reveal himself to us. In a preliminary way, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you want to know me, you should approach somebody who already knows me. Doesn't he say that? And he says you should do it submissively. You should be humble in the way you approach. You should do some service. And what's more, this mood of approach is mentioned throughout the other shastras like Padma Purana. We were discussing on our way here this morning, which you all know, Atashri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayamindre Sevamukhi Jevado Swayameva Spuratyada. And that is that it's by service to Krishna, starting with the tongue, chanting Hare Krishna, that Krishna begins to reveal himself. And then, of course, he reveals himself through the Sampradaya. And when one approaches an authority in the Sampradaya, one must first argue about it. This is mentioned by Kaviraj Goswami. He says, Siddhanta Bholya Chitana Kara Alash, Iha Hoite Krishna Lagi Sudrid Manash. He says that one must not be lazy to understand that there is a source of knowledge about Krishna that is perfect, because it's Krishna revealing himself to the world through the Guru Parampara. And the way of being determined in spiritual life is to come to the conclusion called a siddhanta by hearing, chanting, asking questions, even if they're argumentative, based on doubts. Argumentative not in the sense that I don't accept authority, but just here are some arguments I heard, they're troubling me, I want to understand more, to come to the point. And as one hears in the association of devotees who are followers of the Sri Guru Parampara, then one's understanding of Krishna becomes more refined and specialized. In that, for instance, there are nuances within Krishna consciousness and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, as explained by Thakur Haridas through the pen of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Harinam Chintamani. He describes how there are primary names of God and there are secondary names of God. Secondary names of God have to do with the universe and the creator, everything to do with this world and how it's created. But the primary names of God are the ones that have to do with his relationship with his devotees in the spiritual world. And the sweetest of them all is those that have to do with his childhood and his relationships with the devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. So we have Vallabhacharya saying, I have many interpretations about the name of Krishna and the Maha Mantra. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, I only know Yashoda Nandana. and I don't need any interpretation. These are the main things. This is a nuance. And we also find there's a way that through the Guru Parampara, when we accept a spiritual master in the Guru Parampara, who knows the mood and method of that Guru Parampara, is very important for finding ourselves. If we're to understand progressively understand Krishna, we have to submit ourselves to that source of knowledge of Krishna. Otherwise, what will we do? We cannot understand. Atashi Krishna nabhavet grayam indriya. You can't grayam, there's a graha, means you can't grab Krishna with your senses. That includes the mind. Jnani prayasa mudapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam. Stane stita shrutikatam tanuvan mado bir. E prayaso jita jito pyasitais trilokyam. Brahma tried it. He thought, who is this little boy playing with his friends? And he stole away the calves and cowherd boys, and we all know what happened. He was stunned by the opulence of the Lord, and he came to this conclusion, even though he's got a quad 4 inside, he said that won't work. If you put a quad million inside, you still can't understand God. Jnani priyasam, he said, so don't try that way. Approach by hearing from the authority that you've accepted. And when you do that submissively, then Krishna reveals himself. Tesham satati yuktanam is for the beginner and also for the highly advanced devotee, because Krishna is there edifying the heart of those who are submissive to hearing Krishna's voice through the Sri Guru Parampara. And what's more, one must have the mood of accepting correction. Otherwise, we can't improve ourselves. You can imagine a student who will not accept correction in the classroom from the teacher who thinks he knows better. I've seen it. Or any other discipline, somebody accepts a teacher and it's like, doesn't accept the mood and method of the teacher, won't make advancement. In fact, Prabhupada writes that one who can come to accept punishment as the reward of the master, then that person can make advancement in devotional service. Punishment as a reward. That you'll correct me so that I can come closer and understand. Brahmananda Bharati had been he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu honored him. But when he came to Puri and the devotees came to Mahaprabhu and said, Brahmananda Bharati is here. He said, shall we bring him here? And Mahaprabhu said, no, don't bring him here. He's worshipable by me, so I should go to see him. So he went to Brahmananda Bharati with the devotees, and they stood before him, and he didn't say anything. And the devotees, headed by Govinda, said, here is Brahmananda Bharati. And Mahaprabhu said, I do not see Brahmananda Bharati. Because Brahmananda Bharati, he had a penchant for meditation and sitting in caves, and he wore a deer skin. And then Mahaprabhu said, this is not Brahmananda Bharati. Brahmananda Bharati would not wear a deer skin. And suddenly in the mind of Brahmananda Bharati, he thought, oh, he has spoken correctly. I have only put this on for false prestige. And Brahmananda Bharati, being submissive to Mahaprabhu, even though in their relationship Mahaprabhu was being submissive to him, and here, in this case, he was correcting him, so Brahmananda Bharati went and changed and came back. And then they had a philosophical debate where Brahmananda Bharati was trying to glorify Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he wouldn't accept it. The point was that in our forward march towards perfection, which means to develop our relationship with Krishna, we have to be tuned in to the Guru Parampara and willing to accept the moods and methods. And if our mood and method isn't correct, we have to have somebody to correct us. Otherwise, we'll remain errant in our thinking and our worshiping process. It won't be perfected. When Raghunath Das Goswami came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he put him under Swarup Damodar and said, now you are the Raghunath of Swarup. You work under him. Swarup Damodar said, he has some questions for you. He's like, okay, you can ask. And he gave him some instructions. But he put him under Swarup Damodar to become refined in the process of devotional service. And so, as we make progress in devotional service, it's vital to be aware of who we're tuned into. And to that degree, Prabhupada was meticulous in instructing us about the process of hearing. And I'll just give a couple examples, and I will stop in a moment. One was, when the devotees first went to India, they came to understand that there was a bigger universe, spiritual universe, outside of ISKCON. Prabhupada had a few books. Bhagavad Gita as it is, the Nectar of Devotion, Teachings of the Lord Chaitanya, Srimad Bhagavatam was coming out volume by volume. And then Prabhupada brought a bunch of devotees to India because he was eager to get the movement started there. So when they came there, they started to notice things. For instance, wow, there's other devotees in the world. There's Prabhupada's own origins from the Gaudiya Math. And then there was books from the Gaudiya Math. What to speak of? Even then, there was Gita Press. You could go get anything. If you could read Devanagari, that is. And, of course, nowadays, there's Rasi Bihari Lal's. That's a more recent thing. That wasn't there in the 70s, but Rasi Bihari Lal's is the biggest little bookstore in the world. So if you walk up the stairs, you'll notice one floor after another, I hope they have strong beams in there, because that's all they have is books all the way to the rafters. And you can find books from anybody, because they're indiscriminate. They're not promoting Guru Parampara and such, they're promoting the sale of books. So anybody could walk in there and pick out any stack of books they wish and go home and read it. It could have mistranslations, it could have misconceptions, it could have anything. As Shivaram Maharaj once commented, anybody could go buy books in the cloth market in India. He was referring to Rasi Bihari Lal's. And if you're listening, Rasi Bihari Lal Prabhu, no offense, I still want to buy tilak sometimes. So a controversy came up because devotees did find some books that they could read from the Gaudiya Math. And the temple president had understood from Prabhupada that being exclusivistic in one's hearing is not limiting. It's the opposite, counterintuitively. The more you refine your hearing to the Guru Parampara specifically, and you're careful to hear from those who are authorized. And one might say, authorized, everybody's authorized. Well, you can take that point of view, but that it's not very refined. In fact, that goes to who can come into the circle of devotees who are cultivating a particular mood and speak. And some people would say, well, they're followers of Lord Chaitanya, it doesn't matter. Okay, but it does. And Prabhupada said it himself when Mukunda Maharaj had wondered what would happen if Prabhupada left, because early on Prabhupada had severe health problems. And he was going to go back to India, and Mukunda Maharaj, this is in the Leela Amrita, had brought up to him, well, maybe we'll bring over some senior devotee from the Gaudiya Math to take your place. And Prabhupada was quiet about it until later, and then in a more parokshavad, indirect way, he had indicated that that was not a sanguine idea. And he mentioned at that time the famous mantra, which was, if they say one word different, then it will cause confusion. So when the devotees found books, and the temple president, having this understanding, told the members of the ashram, finding stacks of books accumulating here, there, and everywhere that didn't look like the Nectar Devotion and Teachings of Lord Chaitanya and so forth, all the books that were in the universe of Prabhupada's teachings, then the temple president made a ban. Now, that's a sure way to get publicity, because as soon as you ban something, everyone's, well, what is it anyway? And why not? You know, that's the big thing. They banned me. So temple president banned it, and then, of course, they held court. And where did devotees often hold court? On the morning walk. And it would be stereo, because one party would be on one side and the other party would be on the other side. And then they would present their case to Prabhupada as he's walking, and probably, So one party said, oh, Prabhupada, we got these books from the Gaudiya Math written by previous acharyas, and the temple president has banned them. He said, we can't have them. And then he said, ban them? Previous acharyas? He said, yes, Prabhupada. And then the other side said, Prabhupada, you said we shouldn't read the books of the previous acharyas. Prabhupada said, I have said? Then he disagreed. He said, no, I have not said. I have said you should read the books of the previous acharyas. But then he made a very clear statement, which we can take to heart. He said, but first you must assimilate what you have. And that gave the balanced verdict. Assimilate what you have. Besides the fact that there's the Rasa Bihari Lal effect, which is you can get any book from the marketplace that hasn't been rendered properly, and you can go through it. Now, in general, we find the greatest book writers and publishers like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami in their instructions saying, do not become a bookworm. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't allow his Matbasis to keep a big library in their room because he didn't want this phenomena of devotees scrambling to know more than everybody else. Prabhupada also said things like 5 books are enough, Nectar Devotion, etc. It didn't mean that he didn't want us to understand the wider body of literature, the Gaudiya canon, and so forth, as these things become available. But after one has assimilated what one's had, and there have been many missteps by devotees who, even with Prabhupada's books, didn't know how to properly hear from them. For instance, when the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, some devotees, hearing about the Leela of Radha and Krishna and how it was superlative, decided that they would exclusively hear from those parts and they would eschew the hearing of Bhagavad Gita or any other parts. And there are ways in which people have come to erroneous understandings, otherwise known as misunderstandings, of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So much so that I know of one person who had in Juhu, Mumbai, would come in, offer obeisances during greeting of the deity to Gaur-Nitai and then to Radha Krishna, but would avoid Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, thinking lower mode of worship. I can't be involved, I might be attracted, and I might be hurled down to a lower part of Goloka, or even to Vaikuntha. I could fall into Vaikuntha. These are the ruminations of immature people who don't have the benefit of carefully going through Prabhupada's books under proper guidance. Even Prabhupada's books, in between each paragraph, there may be thousands of questions. What do you mean by this and that? And in asking those questions and refining one's understanding of what Prabhupada's mood was and what he meant by certain things, one comes more and more to a mature understanding of one's relationship with Krishna, or first who Krishna is, and how one may approach him. So one has to be chaste in the process of hearing and not become exuberant, first of all, to know more than others. This is the sense of being a bookworm. Tapana Mishra fell prey to that. We find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He read so many books, such a great scholar, he knew everything. Then he got confused. He said, what should I do? And when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, I know everything, but now I don't know what to do. And Mahaprabhu gave him simple instructions, chant Hare Krishna. So, the path of devotional service is simple. One can follow it strictly. And one of the strict tenets that you'll find among devotees who are highly refined and refining themselves is being careful whom they hear from. If we pick out anyone, even if they're Vaishnavas. I'll give you an example, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a very exalted brother named Lalit Prasad Thakur. And some of my godbrothers, 2 of them specifically, would go there regularly to just hear from him because, wow, he's Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's brother and an exalted Vaishnava, so why not go there and hear? I read the letter, not the copy of the letter, but the personal letter, because my godbrother showed me what he got from Prabhupada. He said, Lalit Prasad Thakur is a pure devotee in his own right. But because he has disagreement with my Guru Maharaj, I ask you not to go there and hear from him because it will create confusion in your mind. Now someone may say, well, what's that all about? Vaishnavas, follower of Lord Chaitanya, what's the difference? When one becomes refined in one's endeavor for devotional service, it makes a big difference. You're tuning, like you're tuning a radio, you're tuning your ear to the Sampradaya. How will we understand if we don't have submissive hearing? And submissive hearing means chaste hearing. It means hearing from those authorities we know we've been given authorization for. And there's always an impetus for the living entity in the material world to start going off-road. That's why everyone has these, what do they call them? SUVs. Even I have one. It's the idea, like, anytime I'm going to get off the freeway, I'm going to go on my own. 4-wheel drive, you got to have it. Big gnarly tires. Although they never do, they're always stuck in traffic. But that's the American idea. It's like, anytime now, show me a wilderness, I'll conquer it, and I'll just go off the road, and everybody else will be stuck in traffic, and I'll be driving through the desert on my own. And that's something that a chaste-minded devotee guards against, is not read all books. For instance, there was a lot of consternation about printing the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. And Prabhupada made a very strong statement about it in one of his purports, that he said, if you want to know about Krishna and your relationship with him and the tenets of devotional service, you must read this book. That's a strong word, must read. Prabhupada also gave lists of books that he would have liked to translate it in the future. He also empowered his qualified disciples to translate the rest of the Bhagavatam after he left. And we have a lot. I could just say, in the last day, I've been disappointed with myself because when I came back from UK, I could show you. I got a list of people I have to call back. It's not so easy. And I'm like, I didn't have enough time to read as much as I wanted to read. And I'm leaving thousands and thousands of purports on the field because I haven't had time for it. So then where's the time for going off the road in your SUV to drive around and find something else to listen to? And somebody said, it's a Vaishnav. Well, there are a lot of different Vaishnavas. And they have different moods. And even the ones that were very much in tune with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada said, if they say something different, even one word, then you become confused. Don't go to hear Lalit Prasad Thakur, who would have the power to say such a thing. Don't go listen to Lalit Prasad Thakur. Person who would be authorized by the Guru Parampara to present the mood and method of the previous acharyas and the sampradaya, and who was obviously empowered. So we have to be, those who want to be progressive must not become bookworms, or nowadays there's, of course, the internet. You can tune into anybody anywhere. And one has to be careful. If someone says, well, it's all the same, then it's not very mature, because it's not all the same. It's a refined science, and the more specific one becomes in one's understanding, and the more pointed one is in following the Guru Parampara in a specific way, the more one comes closer to perfection. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur allowed his students to study various topics, even in the material world, but with the sole purpose of understanding them so they could refute them and present Krishna consciousness, or not even refute, but could harmonize them with an understanding so people could come closer to Krishna consciousness, because as Shukadeva Goswami says, there's thousands and thousands of topics to hear, but what are you going to hear? So as we come here, we have our Acharya, founder Acharya, sitting on a Vyasasana. If you go to other temples in India, you won't find a founder Acharya sitting on the Vyasasana in many places. But it's the channel through which we focus our attention to become mature in devotional service. And counterintuitively, the more we're careful about that, the more unlimited our knowledge becomes of Krishna. And more importantly, the mood in which we worship him. One word different. But to speak of big differences, those can be accommodated by the great acharyas like Sridhar Swami, a great commentator. He was in the midst of Mayavadis when he was teaching. He tuned his teachings to bring out pure devotion to Krishna, but so it also catch the ear of Mayavadis and bring them closer. We have Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who gives the inside vision of what Krishna was thinking even in certain pastimes. How will we know these things if we go here, there, and everywhere? Even Mukunda, who is an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Mahaprabhu was performing as Mahaprakash and giving benedictions to all the devotees, some were noticing that Mukunda didn't get called. I said, what about Mukunda? I said, no, he can't come here. And everyone was shocked. They said, why? Because he goes here, there, and everywhere. He doesn't discriminate. He'll sit down in any assembly, it doesn't matter to him, and listen. And that was Mahaprabhu's demonstrative way of saying, chaste hearing. Stay in your camp. And you say, oh, camp, that sounds sectarian. Yeah, spiritual world sectarian. It is. In the spiritual world, and we just read it in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 82nd chapter, about how at Kurukshetra, when Krishna went there for the eclipse of the sun, there were the queens of Dwarka and then the gopis came. There's not such a sweet relationship between the gopis and the queens. It's pointed out. They're sectarian. The gopis, in a very sectarian way, even to Krishna, they were sectarian. Krishna said, how about this? Yeah, we're here in Dwarka. They said, no. We want the Krishna in Vrindavan, not the one here. That's very sectarian. You should be more open-minded. Well, tell it to the gopis. Of course, our acharyas point out at the same time, the gopis, the queens of Dwarka are expansions of the gopis. But still, this sectarianism, of course it's a pejorative term, but I'm using it deliberately. This sectarianism was where the taste comes from. Yes, we do have our own camps. In the spiritual world, there are ganas. There are groups that have their own moods and methods of worshiping Krishna in a certain way. And even the clash between them brings out the rasa. So the non-discriminate who doesn't refine his or her hearing is not more advanced. That I am not sectarian, I listen to anybody, I go anywhere. That is not advanced. Advanced means that you've tuned your ear to the Sri Guru Parampara and you understand what my master would allow me to hear properly. So the devotees tune their ears to Prabhupada. What's okay? Well, Prabhupada's not going to say you can't hear from the previous acharyas, but you have to hear through the proper channel so that it comes to you in a way that informs your mood of worship of Krishna. And assimilate what you have first, because then you'll know the difference. And if you don't assimilate what you have very carefully and for a long time, then you'll have no discrimination to know what's what. And that comes up in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes when they all bring this so-called poet to recite his poem to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Swarup Damodar, who's the gatekeeper, said, no way. And they kept begging and begging and begging. So, okay, you first read it to me, he said. Then I'll say if it's okay for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear it. And he heard it. All the devotees thought, oh, this is great. Sounds wonderful. What a great poet. Hare Krishna. But then after Swarup Damodar heard it, the black clouds came in. he said, "This is offensive. You've not understood anything about rasa. You've violated so many rules, and you've made offense." And he pointed out where it was. Of course, he gave that very stern warning to everybody. And he also then gave encouragement to the person who brought it. But that's what the discipline of the Guru Parampara is. It's very tuned hearing and very careful association. Not here, there, everywhere, and it's all good. In one sense, from very, very high up, the whole material world's all good. From the point of view of Mahabhagavata, it's like everyone's engaged, no problem at all. But that's not the approach that we take. And we're very careful about that. And ISKCON is a specific thing. Sectarian. Fine, we're sectarian. We're careful, and we follow a certain mood, and we like it. And how do we assimilate others? Or how do we relate to others? With great respect. With deep respect for all Vaishnavas in every direction. But we keep a refined list, or a select list of who we listen to, where we listen to, in what association we listen to. And even as far as the various kinds of groups that we have, glorious groups all over the world teaching about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We give all obeisances, and when we come together for prasadam with such exalted devotees and have a chance to talk, for instance, with God brothers who are all very deeply loving and appreciative. But then in the cultivation of people who are coming from the hard labor of a particular organization, we're very careful and guarded that these are our plants that we're taking care of. And it's not the etiquette to go from one garden to the next and just say, well, hey, it's all part of Lord Chaitanya's, I'll just dig this one up and take it somewhere else. Very respectful of the boundaries. Just like the idea Krishna gives, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaisthu Vishayan Indaresh Charan Atmavasharabhate Atma Prasadamadi. What kind of a contrary thing is that? He said he calls it the regulative principles, which means you got to do this and you can't do that, of freedom. How's that free? Doesn't sound very free to me. You're telling me what to do. And there is a freedom when there's clear boundaries. And then there can be deep respect for the varieties. But within those particular places, there are ways in which, through etiquette, we're able to honor the devotees and at the same time honor the particular mood and method of a particular group. And every group has its right to its own mood and method. Om Tat Sat. Okay. Is that a question or yes?
Thank you so
much. Hope you're all okay after that. I wasn't, that's not what I was going for. I just want to make sure you're okay.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for this point of chest and tuned hearing. Very much, very clear. I have a question. I was on book distribution and I met some people with other philosophy, I'll say Christians, and they said that, one person I was talking to, I didn't engage much, but he was saying that, we don't have to work for getting to our God. And this is a short question, but I want to add more details so that I'm looking for, so we also, Krishna also says that Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. He says, and aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma sucha. That just take shelter of me and I will take care of you. And then we hear the example of Putana, that even though she came to give Krishna poison, still she got liberated. And but then also we see that it takes so much time, for devotees to go back to Krishna, or so many lifetimes. But we see there are so many different cases. Somewhere Krishna, it takes immediate. Sometimes it takes so much time. And sorry, 1 second. And so how and Sharanam, about the Sharanam that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given.
You're giving a lot of background context. I think
Yes.
we have enough. Just ask the question. Just say, what are we supposed to do now? Or something.
Yeah, if you can tell me why we have to work to get to God.
Well, why wouldn't you want to work? Devotees in the spiritual world, Shreya Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumish Chintamani Ganamai Toyamamra Kataganam Natyam Gamanama. Work means you're moving something. You got your senses, you want to use them, right? So our philosophy isn't don't work. Our philosophy is nahi kashit janamapi jatu tishtetya karma karite havasa karma sarva prakriti jargana. Krishna says you can't stop working. Our only point is just work for Krishna. And my question back to you is, who wouldn't want to work for Krishna? Krishna's so appreciative that if you do one little thing for him, he never forgets it. Whereas if you work for one of these big corporations, they easily forget what you did for them. And then you get there one day and it's like, clear out your desk, you're gone. Or so many other iterations of that. And it's a spontaneous, when we come for festivals and we're working to decorate the altar and Prabhupada's Vyasasana and cook, if you go in and ask Radhaballabha, why are you working so hard? He's going to say, because I love Krishna. And I love the devotees, and I want to work for them. So there's different kinds of work, and there's different kinds of dancing, and there's different kinds of speech. And the speech motivated by the highest impetus, which is love, is not work at all. We have this philosophy of karma, akarma, vikarma. And so what do you do to qualify yourself for God? There's some historical point there that goes back to the origins of the Bible that has to do with different religious ideas. But the general idea is that when you hear about Krishna and you realize that you have senses that could be used in his service, you want to use them. You want to chant Hare Krishna and use your tongue because it's such a, not just a relief, but it's something positive that you can do. You want to walk to the temple because that's where Krishna is. That's work. You have to walk in the hot sun to get to the temple. And so, as Prabhupada said, after Krishna spoke to Arjuna, and Arjuna said, now I have understood. Krishna didn't say, now you can sit down on your chariot and smoke ganja. Prabhupada said, he never said that. He said, now you fight. Because he'd already told him that's what you're going to do anyway. So now you just fight for me. And so, if somebody's a Christian, they say, don't work. Well, what are you going to do then? Nothing? So, just in a general way, we want to work for Krishna. And Krishna gives a recommendation, and through our parampara, sarvapadi vanir muktam, tatpratpena nirmalam, rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchade. If we use our senses in the service of Krishna, not only does it feel good, it purifies the senses. Okay, we had there's a lot. We have the two up there, and then I'll come back. Okay, Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu and And Yashoda Vatsal's there, and then we'll go to Vijay Prabhu. Go ahead. I'll keep your answers, your questions short, and I promise now I'll keep my answers short also.
Dandavat Maharaj, always to Srila Prabhupada, always to you. Maharaj, on that point about chastity, I heard about sticking close to the parampara. I heard that there are devotees in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they have been there for some 30, 40 years. And the only temple that they have gone to is the ISKCON Krishna Balram temple. They have not gone to any of the other temples. So I was just reminded of that when you said about just being close to, being chaste to the parampara that you mentioned. And I have one small question about, we talked about how Prahlad Maharaj did not, about Prahlad Maharaj's classic example that not asking for material benefits. But we also see in Sharanagati of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that one of the points is that Krishna is the maintainer, right? So when we say Krishna is the maintainer, there is an expectation that he will take care of us. But then Prahlad Maharaj and all the other pure devotional services that we should not have any material desires. So these seem to be a bit dichotomous. So if you can kindly elaborate on this.
The answer is in the Sri Upanishad, Tena Tyaktena Bunjita. That Krishna is set aside as a quota for his devotees. So the devotee is in renunciation in the way of using whatever Krishna gives in his service and taking only his quota materially, not trying to take more. Atyahara prayashascha, doesn't try to over-endeavor for that which is already being provided by Krishna. And so there's not a sense in which, as Prabhupada used to say, give us this day our daily bread. So that's not a prayer that's appropriate because he's already giving you your daily bread. But if you pray for more facility so that you can serve him, then that's perfectly all right. And we understand that he's our maintainer in the context that we're helpless to maintain ourselves. And therefore, whatever we get, we offer it to Krishna. And Prabhupada said, a materialistic person, whenever he gets gain, he thinks, I'm so smart, what do I need God for? And when he loses something, he thinks, oh, there must be no God because I'm such a good person. How could such an anomaly come upon me? But a devotee thinks the opposite. When something good comes, Krishna's so kind, I didn't deserve this, but he gave it to me. And when something bad happens, it's like, oh, Krishna's so kind. He's purifying me to let me know that I need some refinement. Thank you, Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yashoda Vatsal?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And thank you so much for this wonderful class. Related to the original topic of our discussion where you were talking about Prithu Maharaj asking that whoever is in ignorance will always desire for material happiness. And I was just thinking doing all these regulative duties and following all the regulative principles, everything. But still these desires keep coming. And then again, I was going back to the Bhagavad Gita of, Vishya Vinivartante, and then try to have higher taste, but still that taste doesn't come. And I just wanted to know, how to still be strong on that path although the taste is not coming, and although still have that sense engagement and that desire for the
I take great inspiration from Lota Baba. You know Lota Baba? When you go to the Rajasthan section did you know that on the Parikram you go through 2 states? They used to charge a toll when you go into Rajasthan. Back in the old days, you have to pay something to go through the gate. But over on that side, right after you leave the Nrsimha Mandir and you come down, there's Lota Baba there. And when Krishna said, I'll be right back, and Lota Baba's still waiting there 5,000 years later. We have to be patient like that. So instead of making a 1-year plan or like, okay, that's one Ekadashi ago, you have to be supremely patient. There's so much power in patience. If you make that your mainstay, is patiently await the mercy of the Lord to come to you. It's a good question. It's something Devahuti asked also. So you can take stock in that. That she said to Kapila Dev, it seems like I am my body and I'll never get out of this. And Kapila Dev said, here for and serve for a long time. You're a lot further than you think. And anartha vritti is no joke. It's not that just after being in the material world since the time immemorial that you just like, Hare Krishna, okay, I'm liberated. Where's all my stuff? And then it's actually a joyful process to confront your anarthas and notice that Krishna is so kind that he makes them so indelible that it knocks some sense into you. Because if they weren't so stubborn, then an errant soul like myself will just think, oh, then I'll just stay in the material world. It's no big deal. It is a big deal. And that's why anartha vritti is not for the weak at heart. It's not for the insincere. It's for those who are determined to go back to Godhead no matter what. And so you have to swim that ocean. And when you're in the ocean, you don't know where the shore is. You may know the direction you're going is right because you have the North Star and you can triangulate. But what's your job? You got to keep swimming. And when land shows up and you see there's a place to stand, that's called nishta. And you're out of the water and you no longer swim. But you have to, going back to Godhead, Prabhupada says in the light of the Bhagavad, is not a plaything. He said, don't treat it as a plaything. I've chanted for 10 years. I've chanted for 100 years. Where's my nectar? I want to be in Madhurya Ras. And I'll go to Rasi Bihari Lal's. If you won't give it to me, I'll just go get a book from the top floor at Rasi Bihari Lal's. So we should be humble, and any crumb Krishna throws us, we should say, I didn't deserve this. And from that mood, that's when it comes. Be Lota Baba. Stand there for 5,000 years. Sit there for 5,000 years and read all of Prabhupada's books. How many times could you read in 5,000 years? You look it up on my app. Okay, Vijay Prabhu, and then
Hare Krishna. Thank you again for a wonderful class. You were mentioning about sectarianism. That's a very nice point. But Prabhupada, many times he said that we're also non-sectarian. So how do you...
Well, that's the part I mentioned. We have to have both in vision. I said, our hearts are melted by all the Vaishnavas all over the world and all the different sampradayas. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur put up all the Vaishnavacharyas in the bona fide lines. At the same time, he is the one who did battle with all the errant sampradayas. There are all these deviations from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And he is the one who listed them all, showed exactly what the nuance and the difference was and why it was different from the Shastra, Shruti Smriti Puranadi, Panchratriki Vidambina, Aikantiki Hare Bhakti Rupati Aiva Kalpate. If you're doing devotional service and it doesn't line up with the Shruti Smriti Purana and the Puranas and so forth, you create a disturbance to society. And so, yeah, that's we do that discrimination between those who are actually following properly. But even then, Prabhupada said of the Sahajas, well, they chant Nitai Gaur, Radhe Shyam, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Shri Radhe Govinda. So at least they're saying Nitai Gaur, Radhe Shyam. Of course, he has to point out that they're not following the Guru Parampara. They made up their own system. You have to point that out. But within all the association of Vaishnavas, we're all offering obeisances. But at the same time, the cultivation and the etiquette should be that we respect the sovereignty of each place. It's not like you barge in any other place and say, I'm here and I have agenda and you all should follow. How do you know what everyone's cultivating here? Even within ISKCON, it's appropriate when advanced devotees come here, one of the first things they say is, how can I serve you? Meaning serving, so what do you need me to do here? And if you go to different sanghas within ISKCON, you should also understand what is their situation, what help do they need, how can I be of service when I go there, and not suddenly jar everybody's consciousness to a different idea. And that's also civilized. That's my answer for now, because I said it'd be short. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the most wonderful class. If I could just put points like a star in the night sky, it'll be as bright as a day. So thank you for this beautiful, beautiful class and for reinforcing the moods and methods of the parampara. I did have one question. You mentioned earlier in the class about offering to Krishna in love. And in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, we do read about charity and various rajas, tamas and all of those modes. So giving in grudgingly, giving lackadaisical attitude and giving with as a duty. But what is the difference between giving as a duty and giving as in love? How would you? What should we do that when we offer something to Krishna?
Well, that goes to the subject of Vaidhi Bhakti versus Bhava Bhakti. And in Vaidhi Bhakti, the specific definition is you have faith in the Shastra. You've come to the point of understanding that the Shastra is apaurushaya. It's not spoken by a person who has any faults. It's coming from Krishna. And therefore, you put your full mind and intelligence into following the Shastra. And that's why when we worship Radha Krishna with the Panchratrik system here, we're actually worshiping Lakshmi Narayan because we're following the Shastra rules and regulations. And that's the duty of the person who understands how to do devotional service through Vaidhi Bhakti. But then Rupa Goswami says, pregnant within that Vaidhi Bhakti is the Bhava Bhakti that naturally awakens as one continues to do it. Just like, okay, little child, and this is with his parents. Then the grandmother comes, and the child's not met the grandmother yet. And then the child's shy, hiding behind the mother. Like, who is this person? So then they give the child a little gift, like a flower, and they say, go give it to grandma. And then the child, on the encouragement of the parents, runs over, hands it, turns around, runs back, hides behind the mother again. And each time he said, go give it to grandma. And then after a while sees, oh, grandma accepts it, and grandma, and they hear the word grandma, and then the grandma's smiling, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, I like grandma. And as the child grows up, it starts to think, let me get something for grandma. Not what my mother gave me, but I'm gonna find my own gift. What is grandma like? And then the child who's now maturing, comes and says, I love my grandma. Here, I brought you this. And so in devotional service, we start off with this clear injunction of Shastra. So we follow the Archana Paddhati. Here's how you worship Krishna. It's like, go worship Krishna. Bring him this flower. Like, dutiful, following Shastra. But after a while, we think, like, I'm going to grow a whole field of flowers. And so I can offer different varieties to Krishna because one begins to awaken within one's heart that sense of Krishna. He accepts these. And one feels the reciprocation. And then that starts to trend into the next section of bhakti, which is that it's coming from the heart. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, thank you for the nice class. So, you shared that pastime of Juhu, that how sometimes we tend to pass through Ram Lakshman Hanuman status very quickly. And that reminded me actually of my Diksha Guru was sharing one pastime when he was in Juhu, that there were a lot of devotees who were gathering around Sitaram Hanuman. And then they obviously they're not part of ISKCON, and they had that natural tendency for worshipping Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. But then they were completely avoiding Gaurnita's altar, not going there and just taking turn on Radha Krishna and then Ram Lakshman Hanuman. So my Guru Maharaj was saying how they are also kind of not getting the benefit of Nitai Gaur, who are the deities for this yoga, and how
the people who came to visit the temple.
They were not actually, they don't know Gaur Nitai in some cases. So Guru Maharaj was saying they are not getting the benefit that Gaur Nitai can bestow. So I was thinking of that on pretty much on the similar line. And I had a question, Prabhu, if you would allow.
Okay, ask a short question. Will I give a short answer? All right, go ahead.
So Prabhu, you mentioned this aspect of being offensive towards other sampradayas or any other personality like Lolita Prasad Thakur is also not good. So I was just thinking of the line, where does this tendency comes to criticize or be offensive? Is it not knowing them well, or not knowing our literature and standing well, or both of them?
It's the nature of the world. Everyone feels competitive with others because we're living beings and we have our individuality, so we want to express it. So there's competition. And even in Krishna's Gana, with the cowherd boys, they're always competing. Who's going to touch Krishna first? And that's a big deal. And that's the nature of individuality. Prabhupada says that kind of competition, or when you see somebody do something better than you in devotional service, then there's no malice. So it's reasonable to see the difference and to feel competitive, but there should be no malice behind it. And malice is a quality of the material world, where you just feel envious because you have false ego that you want to be the best. And then when somebody does something better than you, then you deny it, or you try to wreck what they're doing so you won't look as bad. And those are two different things. And that's as short as I can keep it. We just take a couple more and then we're done. Okay, who had their hand up here? Yes, one, and then on the board. Go ahead.
Just wanted to offer one verse that you had shared with us before. Is from 3rd Canto, 6th chapter, verse number 36, in which I think so is some word between Vidura and Maitreya, where he says that in spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech, for otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste.
Right. Thank you for reminding me of that, because we had that discussion before, and I had been eager to hear that verse. Thank you. Well placed. Well played. Okay. I can't see who it is. Achyuta Kumar. Wow. Got all the heavy hitters today. Go ahead, Achyuta Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, such a wonderful class today. As His Grace Vijay Damodar Prabhu said, this is one of the top classes that we heard, and you greatly put a lot of arguments on how we should approach hearing, and especially chaste hearing. So I see that a lot of devotees, including yourself, my Guru Maharaj, and all the other traveling devotees, say the same thing what you said today. But we also hear some very interesting and yet shastric arguments that is brought up, that when we are growing in devotional service in the Vaidhi Bhakti, we should also have the laulyam. We should have the intense greed to hear the intimate pastimes, as well as all the subject matters. So again, we saw those arguments. Now, how do we draw the line here? Like, should we continue the Vaidhi Bhakti for a long time, and we will make an automatic transition, the way you told the example of the grandmother, that we will grow more flowers and give it to the grandmother or the deities. Should we wait for that, or should we also have that laulyam to kind of hear? And one of the other arguments that the devotees bring is anartha nivritti is a long step. Instead of focusing on anartha nivritti, you should focus on artha pravritti, so that you can get into the raganuga style of bhakti. So can you please shed some light on this, Prabhuji? Thank you so much.
Yeah, so it's a slightly extended conversation, but I'll give a briefest of answers. And that is, Ajata Ruchi Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is what Jiva Goswami talks about in his Sandarbha. Ajata Ruchi means before actual taste is born, there is a sadhana that one performs. And Kriti Sadhya Bhavet Sadhya, he describes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as I used the phraseology earlier, that pregnant within Vaidhi Bhakti is Bhava Bhakti. It awakens naturally. At the end of the chapter on this subject matter, he says, well, you have to understand, it all comes by the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master. How are you going to get laulyam? You can't purchase it. Prabhupada mentions several times that such intense desires may come after many lifetimes. It's not something in imitation. In fact, there's a story about Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj mentioning how in the maternity ward, this young woman really wants to have a child. And she's visiting the maternity ward, and there's a woman inside behind the screen who's giving birth to a child. And due to the pains and rigors of childbirth, she's even, expressing the pain and making some noise, screaming and things like that. I've actually been there for a childbirth, so I don't know how to describe it. So, except for my own, I don't remember. And then the young woman thinks, oh, that's how you have a child. So then she goes home, and her new sadhana is to make the same sounds. The awakening of laulyam, which is certainly as Rupa Goswami says, Bhakti ras bhavitomati kriyatam yadi kritopi lab tata laulyam api mulyam ekalam janmakoti sukritirna labite. You have to have laulyam. But you can't just imitate it. It's not like you just say, well, I'm going to do rag bhakti all of a sudden. Spontaneous. In fact, a long time ago at our old temple, we had a personality who was there, and I came over to the temple, and it was 2 hours past Mangalartik, and he was supposed to be the pujari there, and he was doing it 2 hours late. I said, what's going on? He said, yeah, it's just spontaneous devotional service. That's a misunderstanding of how the process works. So that the answer to your question is definitively, that we follow the process of Vaidhi Bhakti until the Rag Bhakti awakens. And that's confirmed by Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti in his Sandarbha. And he says there that even the advanced devotee, of course Lord Chaitanya says this too, even the advanced devotee who does have laulyam continues externally with the Vaidhi Bhakti to show example for other people. It's not like suddenly you switch modes and you start doing Mangalartik 2 hours late, and that's your Raga Bhakti. It comes when it comes. And just as when a child comes when it comes, first the impregnation is there, then there's the period of pregnancy, and then the child is born. And that happens by the mercy of the Lord. You can't rush it. After all, if you start calculating how you're going to be spontaneous, how is that spontaneous? It doesn't even make sense. So a rush to, we should have a book called The Rush to Raga. If you want it, then you should be, put your intensity into the ways in which the Goswamis showed how to follow. Sankhya purvaka nama gananati bikalavasani krito. They counted everything. You think they count all their rounds up in Goloka Vrindavan? They're just chanting Krishna all the time. It's not like they have to keep track of everything. But our acharyas counted everything. How many times they bowed down, how many shlokas they read, everything. That's the process through which bhakti awakens. It's there in Shastra. It's there in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and so forth. And Jiva Goswami mentions that even if one's endeavoring for raga bhakti, there should be an admixture, he says, of vidhi bhakti at that time. Okay, so how are we going to stop? Okay, one more.
Hare Krishna,
Really
Guru
will stop.
Maharaj.
I got to go. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for class today. I really like the example that you gave about protecting the plants that you have cultivating, and there's a certain etiquette. And so if there are plants that we're trying to cultivate here or any centers within our bounds, and there's other groups that come in and they might try to have their own intentions, what's the proper etiquette in telling them to back off or to simply say not to come back?
Yeah, it's always awkward. But in ISKCON, because of so many considerations of wanting to show respect to others who come, other Vaishnavas, there's actually a rule that if somebody comes to an ISKCON temple, then we should give them prasadam, darshan, all respect, flower garland, greet them and so forth. But it's not our place to then suddenly put them in the schedule for giving a class and sitting in the vyasasana. That's the regulation within ISKCON. And so we should be very respectful. But we shouldn't also be sentimental and then say, oh, well, this is such and such, so we should give it up. The way we're presenting. And as I mentioned, that's the proper etiquette. If somebody's invited, like we used to at Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, on Prabhupada's disappearance day, the devotees would invite senior devotees from the Gaudiya Math, including Puri Maharaj. Traditionally, he would come there and give the talk. That was after due consideration of how he was going to speak and how it fit. So I guess the answer is carefully and under the authority that you have when you're serving in an ISKCON temple, after it's been duly considered and presented in a certain way what the etiquette is to greet people. And you had the last question. Really last, honestly.
I think first thing is that I wanted to request if we could have a follow-up session on that topic, because I also have a lot of questions. I can't ask all, and I assume a lot of devotees will also have questions. So that was the first.
Yes, we can. And the reason I'm being forthcoming is because it's really important to speak frankly, respectfully, frankly, but the mood has to be understood. Otherwise, there'll be missteps, there'll be interruptions to the flow of the community, and also there could be disrespect given to others, or taking the idea of sectarianism, I say it in such a way as to not instigate a mood of us and them, but there's a way in which one should have a safe haven. For instance, when we were doing our home programs for many years, some of you attended those at our house. I think we had for 16 years, every Thursday, and there was every Friday. And, you know, sometimes people would come and they obviously had an agenda. And it wasn't that they would want to sit and hear and chant with everybody and discuss topics openly, frankly, but they were trying to pull the thing in a different direction, and we just took them off the invite list. Because that's not our stated purpose for being there, was to create a safe place so the devotees could cultivate a certain mood of hearing and chanting. Not trying to manipulate the thing, but that's everyone's right to create under the same mood and method of the acharya and the institution that you have, to have that place where you cultivate the process the way it's been given to you and the way you understand it from the association of the devotees there who are leading the program. So it is important to discuss this and the nuances of it also, so that we don't do it in such a blunt way that it either makes us offensive to other people, or it doesn't make us sentimental that it's all one thing, and therefore we'll put up a sign and just say, of course it says all welcome. But how are they welcome? You know, if somebody wants to walk with shoes in, we say, no. I mean, it's like, I thought you were spiritual. And if somebody else wants to come in and give a completely different version of things that doesn't jive, and then it'll disturb the minds of everyone. And that's why Prabhupada said, even if you go elsewhere, you hear there, here, there, and everywhere, if you hear one word different, it'll cause confusion, and it does. So we try to create a safe environment that's fully respectful, and the answer I should have just said is yes. Dear Srila Prabhupada, Shri Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, if so desire, please instill in our hearts deep respect for all Vaishnavas, an intensity of desire to assimilate what we've been given by Srila Prabhupada, which is deeper than any ocean. And may we work together in Krishna's service to spread the Sankirtan movement all over the world, to please the Guru Parampara. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kripa Sindhu
Krishna.
Haribo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Gaur Premanande Haribo.